Hello, welcome back to the Tears of Fire podcast, a podcast where I go over the Last Dragon Chronicles by Chris DeLacy. I'm Diego, and I started this journey because I wanted to interact with this series once again after I had read it when I was way back in fourth or third grade, I believe. When I wanted to come back, I couldn't find any podcasts, YouTube videos, or audiobooks, so I decided why not create it. Thank you guys for joining so much. I hope you had a safe flight in and hit no turbulence. With that, let's get into the show. This week, we don't get any perspectives from the polar bears, and we focus heavily on the penny kettles, mostly Lucy and Tam. And here we go. Chapter 25, Chasing Lucy. We pick right back up with Xana and Tam. They had gone to Blackburn Street, where David's old address from the letter he had sent Liz from the first book, and Lucy had just disappeared. We open up with Xana freaking out and Lucy's dragon Gwendolyn looking for any rhyme and reason to find Lucy. Xana speed dials her phone and tries to get a hold of Liz. Alexa's the only one home right now, and she answers. There's a little bit of back and forth. Alexa's obviously being a 5-year-old, asking a bunch of questions to Xana that doesn't necessarily matter, asking if she can have a ice pop, when the fairies are going to be there. She also tells Xana that she saw David through her toy mammoth. Xana kind of brushes this all off and asks for Alexa to take the phone over to Liz. Alexa actually tells Xana that Liz is over at Henry's house. Xana's trying to think of what to do, so she immediately turns over thought process and asks Alexa to take the phone to Unky Arthur. During this exchange, Xana's going back and forth with Arthur, telling him what's going on, why Lucy had disappeared. Arthur says that he believes Alexa's at the center of this, and so is David. Xana does not want to hear this, saying that they've exhausted all resources and that David is gone. Arthur poses several different questions, including what dimension is David from, saying that when he wrote about David, he was getting influence through Gwen's claw, as well as some other force. He believes that Alexa was part of this, even though Alexa wasn't born yet. And he says that Alexa is also the key to what's going on. After Xana grows tired of this, she knows that there's a way to open the rift and tells Arthur that she needs to know how. Arthur does not want to cooperate, so Xana then threatens to take Alexa away from the entire family, that they'll move away and never see her again, which is kind of a crazy threat for her to be doing. I mean, this is the only family that Alexa's ever known her whole life, and to just uproot her. I mean, obviously it doesn't come to that, but still. She's just hurt, and she's not sure what to do. After a while, Arthur finally gives in, saying to have Gwendolyn hook up to the phone and to something a little bit more powerful to focus her powers, maybe even including a car battery. During this phone conversation with Xana and Arthur, Xana's going back and forth and arguing that this has to happen. Liz finally comes home and takes over the phone, asking Xana to come over, and they can't afford to lose her too, and that Alexa still needs her mother. While Xana is distracted, though, Tam pushes her out of the way and enters the portal himself. Right after this had happened, I have in my notes to F off Tam, but thank you. Still not sure where Tam's intentions are or how he's feeling about Xana and Lucy, but the fact that Tam is sitting there trying to help Xana in between this conversation, he's been adding little bits and pieces, asking questions about David as well. There's a question on where or what dimension David is from, and Xana didn't want to think about this. Arthur did bring up his point, saying that he believes David is still alive, and brings up even more feelings for Xana as well. So that's actually the end of that chapter, and we're going to get into chapter 26, No Place Like Home. This picks up immediately where the last one had kind of left off. Xana is very, very disturbed and upset. She's freaking out and asking essentially rhetorical questions. Why is all this happening? What is David doing? Why isn't anything really making sense? How can Alexa be doing this kind of stuff? And Liz takes over with her motherly instincts, saying that she needs to calm down, take a breath. She's very patient with Xana. She tells Xana that she needs to come home because Alexa and her are in need of Xana. Xana looks up into the sky and notices that it's pretty stormy, it's starting to snow, it's getting very gray, and says that she doesn't want to be stopped in the middle of the highway with a blanket freezing. So she said that she'll stay at a hotel that she noticed on the way over just for the night, and she'll be home very, very late the next day. In the same chapter, we do switch perspectives and we go from Xana over to Wayward Crescent with the Penny Kettle household. It's said that the David's threesome of dragons, Gollygosh, Graith, and Gadzooks, all felt a wave of Alma. There hasn't necessarily been an uptick in activity, however, as that will get hit on later by Liz. But during this conversation between Liz and Arthur, Arthur was trying to convince Liz that she is important. There's something a little bit more going on. Kind of the same conversation that he was having with Xana. But Liz doesn't want to hear it either, saying that even though there is an uptick with recent activity in David's Dragons, there's been no sign to show that he's trying to connect with them whatsoever. Boddington comes trotting into the room and hops into Arthur's lap. It says, obviously, we know that whenever they come into contact, since they've both been in contact with the Fane, they commingle with each other, and Arthur is able to see recent memories from Boddington. And Boddington shows that there is a light coming from the fairy doors that Alexa has out in the garden. This brought up questions for me. Is this the Fane? Is there another dimension that the fairies are coming into? And we'll find out later when Alexa is interacting with another new character. Well, not new character, but new to her. Arthur continues his conversation with Liz. He knows that it's hard, but he has to push. He tells Liz that Gallant has a purpose other than romance when he gave it over to Xana. Liz gives him an eye and look and says not to tell Xana that because it might bring up some feelings and some animosity towards him from Xana, is what I should say. After a while, Arthur explains that when his mind was scrambled by the Fane, he was able to slowly piece it back together, but not all memories were his, and that some of the stuff that was in there had come from the Fane and the Ix realm as well. He says that after a couple years of meditation, he finally understands the relationship between Fanes and dragons. Obviously, we know that the Fane were here to help breed dragons and take them back to their own world called Chimera. Arthur goes on to explain that the dragon Goddess had breathed a long breath of fire, creating essentially the universe. In low vibrations and frequencies allowed everything to slow down, creating the earth and livable habitats for humanity to evolve and survive. Then, in the higher vibrations and frequencies out in space, where maybe physical forms couldn't be created and sustained, the Fane were created, which were just thought beings without a body or a physical presence. Arthur then goes on to explain the process of enlightenment for both the Fanes and the humans. He said that the humans can become enlightened by opening up their mind and focusing slash meditating, and when they do so, they open up portals between, or maybe not portals, but just connections between our own world and the Fane's world. And once a Fane commingles with somebody, they become enlightened because they're now a higher being per se. I don't think this makes them premen, but they're able to access higher thought processes. He says that the Fane also search for enlightenment, but the only way that they can become enlightened is by commingling with a live dragon's fire. Once they do so, though, it's called being illuminated. He didn't say anything about the Ix because I'm not sure if the Ix have had the chance to do this yet. We just know that their main purpose and goal is to create new dragons that will take the place of the old ones, but through dark matter instead of the natural white fire that we get from Goddeth. Arthur goes on to explain that he believes David is still alive. Something about the ice being penetrated through David's heart is keeping him alive, and that he's from a different realm. He explains that he can feel David moving throughout the universe and he is on his way to enlightenment. He also explains that he believes David has become one with David through commingling and has chosen his dragon name to be Gallant. This upsets Liz pretty dearly, and she starts asking the questions that I was asking for the past few episodes. If this is David and if he is alive, why isn't he here? Why isn't he being a father? Why hasn't he communicated with Xana in any way, shape, or form? He's just been letting everybody that loves him to go essentially crazy, and especially between Lucy and Xana, who need him the most. She feels almost betrayed. It says that there's an unusual amount of anger in her voice that Arthur has never heard. And honestly, through 4 books, I have never felt this through Liz as well. Arthur goes on to explain that Alexa is a special child. He believes that Alexa is from another dimension as well and was able to influence events from before time. He said when he was riding through the Claw of Gwaine, he was influenced through forces, and that Alexa was one of them. She was able to choose her parents, one from this world and one from the other dimension. And when I read that, I believe that the one from this world would be Xana, even though she is technically, I would say, supernatural per se. She's got the abilities of a witch slash Sybil from ancient times. And then the parent from the other dimension would be David, as it's been already mentioned. His address didn't exist. It seems that Arthur almost wrote him into existence when everything was first starting to go down and he first found Gwaine's claw. And so that kind of answers my question a little bit. I was always wondering where David had gotten his abilities to write the future, and if Arthur is the one who created him through writing with Gwaine's claw, it would make sense that his abilities would come from that as well. And so this made me wonder, is David a Fane or is David a created being from Arthur, period? And would that make Arthur his father? Right after this, though, the phone rings. When the phone was ringing, Bonington has a sixth sense moment, and right before Arthur puts the phone to his ear, Bonington turns into a saber-toothed tiger and knocks the phone out of his hand. It falls onto the phone and breaks apart. Liz was wondering what that was all about, and Arthur gets serious, saying that they've been found. I think they were referring to the Ix. This disturbs Liz very much, and she looks over at Alexa, who's in the gardens planting apple tree seeds. She opens up the door and yells at Alexa to come on in. Alexa gets a little distracted though, and on her way in, a crow flaps and lands onto the fence between her house and Henry Bacon's house. We get this crow talking to her. This is Auntie Gwyneth. The crow's telling her pretty rude things about David. Alexa's just bewildered though, asking her, "You saw my daddy?" Auntie Gwyneth goes on to say that he's a snake and a betrayer. He didn't keep his word. He was supposed to change her back to human form and take her out of this feathery prison. Alexa doesn't really seem too concerned though, just bewildered that this person is here to help her. But during this conversation, it got interrupted by Henry Bacon spraying the crow with water. She flies up and starts quaking. Liz comes out and asks her what's going on. Alexa looks at Henry and says, "You better be careful because that's an old lady and she has powers. She might put a spell on you," and goes her, just like the dragons. Obviously, Henry didn't understand anything going on, but Liz looks over at Alexa and says, "Is that a witch?" Alexa says, "Yes, that's my Auntie Gwyneth." pretty crazy. I'm happy that Auntie Gwyneth did hold up her promise. I don't know if there's any actual spells or any kind of magic that was holding her to actually come here other than just the threat from David slash Ingvar. I'm interested to see how this crow is going to interact with Alexa going forward. We did get in this conversation that Alexa knows about the ice fire snowball in the freezer, and Guilana tells her to bring it to her, saying that this will help her change back into human form and that she was sent here to protect her by wishes of her dad. This also makes me wonder if Alexa is going to tell Liz about anything, and knowing what's going to happen, well, not knowing what's going to happen, but thinking about what's going to happen, I wonder if Liz is going to go ahead and allow Alexa to give that ice fire to Auntie Gwyneth to change her. Because even though we've had some run-ins and some fights with Guilana in the past, it seems like she's the lesser of the two evils at this point, and will can be a very strong ally going forward. Might even be able to help Xana further her abilities even more. But that brings us to the end of that chapter and into chapter 27, Testing Lucy. Lucy wakes up in the middle of a field on the island. She can see the lone tower out to the far side, and inside of the island, it's just absolutely storming. She's drenched. She's barefoot. She's barefoot as she's laying there. She feels very cold and she's freaking out. She gets up and starts running towards the tower, and she comes up into some stones. During this time, one of the stones pops up and turns into Brother Bernard. Then she tries to go another way in between another few stones that turn into other monks from the island, and she starts screaming. Out of nowhere, Lucy then wakes up, and Brother Bernard is sitting there just naturally. Lucy's covered up with a blanket and in a cot inside of the old Perry. Brother Bernard tells Lucy that this was all a test. The Ix makes her see what she most fears. During this dream as well, before she was woken up, she actually saw one of the new dragons. It looked more gargoyle-like. It still had a serpent's body, some heavy paws, strong wings, but it was completely black. A bolt of lightning had hit the ground, and out of the ground is where it sprang up. Inside of its body, she could see not only the blackness of it, but the scales were all flat. There was no real design to them. They looked like it had been straight carved from stone, with lightning going through its body. Brother Bernard starts talking to Lucy, saying that the Ix are there to pretty much destroy the world. They're having a conversation going back and forth about David, about dragons, and why the Fain are truly here. Bernard goes on to explain that this island was once a volcano. It's now dormant, but it was the perfect place for the dragons to have a breeding ground. This dragon's name was Ghislaine, as I'm guessing how you pronounce it. And at the time when the Fain first came over, their goal was to breed them, commingle with them, and take the dragons back to Chimera, which obviously we know, but Lucy had to get that information as well. Lucy tells Bernard that David is going to stop it. Bernard does agree that David is still alive, but that he's naive. He's not completely sure what he's doing and that he's making a grave mistake. He actually reveals what David's plan is to take the Eye of Gawain to the heart of Gaia and open it up, being able to use the pure white fire. Bernard explains that the Ix are going to use that exact same event to then poison all of mankind. Bernard goes on to say that the Ix have a belief that they're so superior, there's no need to hide anything. There's no need for deception. There's just overpowering magic. So there's no need to decept anything. During this conversation, earlier in it, I should say, it was interrupted once by a monk bringing in some soup and some food for Lucy. Lucy didn't get a good feeling, so she threw the soup and broth aside, and a piece of meat fell out. Brother Bernard explained that the broth was made from rabbits on the island, and they're there to keep her sustained. When the soup had dropped, a rabbit's foot came out and it was twitching. That made her sick. But so the second time that the new monk comes in, he bends over to grab the bowl again and clean everything up, and he whacks Bernard when he goes behind him and knocks Brother Bernard completely out. We get that this was Tam. And that pretty much brings us to the end of that chapter. This just made me wonder how long had Tam been sitting there and listening to things, how much he had been able to gather. I'm sure Lucy had been there for a few hours because it says that she was, sleeping and dreaming. But yeah, I have in here is Tam to the rescue and don't mess this up. I had been getting weird feelings and vibes from Tam from the very beginning, uh, but the fact that he's willing to risk his own life and go into the fray to not only keep Xana out of danger but then rescue Lucy makes me feel a little bit better. All right, and that's going to bring us into the last chapter of the section, chapter 28 in the chapel. This one's pretty short, but as they're escaping, Tam explains to Lucy that Brother B was the Ix. He asked her if she was listening the whole time, and that the Ix, like Brother Bernard had said, have no reason to lie, and that the Ix were essentially bragging through Brother Bernard to Lucy, telling them exactly what their plan was. During this escape, though, Tam and Lucy go out into the chapel hallways and they go into a large room, essentially for prayer. All of the color has been drained from everything. They believe that the monks have all been overtaken by the Ix and are creating these new dragons. I wasn't sure what happens next was a dream or if this actually happened. But when they walk into the big circular room, Tam then drops his habit, which, from what I got described, was, essentially the monk's robes or uniform that they're wearing. And from it rise one of these nasty, terrible, dark dragons that Lucy had dreamed about. At the altar was an icy body that resembled David. This dragon then rose its three disgusting described claws into the mark of Amara, stabbed him in the chest, and then the body became water. This absolutely freaks Lucy out and she starts screaming. But all the monks around her started filing in, almost appearing like portals had been transferred. And they all started communicating to each other saying that she's perfect and to take her to the obsidian room. I think the obsidian room is where they're going to be, or what they're going to be using to create these dragons. Obsidian isn't necessarily a very hard substance. You can break it. I don't know if you can melt it and mold it. I mean, obsidian is made through cooling down lava, obviously. We have a lot of it around here where we're at in Oregon. So I'm pretty familiar with that kind of rock, but I'm not sure how you could use it other than just chipping it away and using it as decorative pieces. I'm also not sure how they're already creating these dragons. I know a couple chapters ago they were saying that they would have to use dark matter instead of the white fire in order to create them, but I thought that they had to have a physical conduit in order to manipulate the dark matter, such as Alexa, David, possibly even Lucy or Xana, somebody with some more substantial powers other than just these thought beings. But maybe some of the monks on the island have the ability. We know that Brother Vincent slash Arthur and Bernard both were able to tap into this, especially after being in touch with the Fane. So it'd be interesting to see. But all right, thank you guys. That brings us into the end of that section. Thank you so much for being here. Next week we'll be going over chapters 29 through 32, and we're pretty close to the end of the book. We'll be having Miss Kaylee return to give us a book review in a couple of episodes, as well as Mike Shoobs from over at TNO. I'm going to see if he'll be willing to open up the fifth book, Dark Fire, with us, and go from there. Everybody's pretty busy, especially right now with the weather starting to get warm. Everybody's enjoying being in the outdoors, so it's kind of just a scheduling matter at this point, but we do have big plans. So, if you guys have any questions or recommendations, you have Spotify, YouTube, my Gmail, gadzooksalasdm@gmail.com. And if you have any interest in possibly being a guest on this, I would love to have any newbies available. I'd also like to start something fun. I have a few of the box sets of this series available just sitting in my room. So if you know somebody that might enjoy this or you have kids in your life, shoot me a shoot me a quick email or a comment. I will get in touch with you. I have about 5 ready to go, and I would be more than happy to ship this out to just spread the word and the joy. Again, thank you very much. Have a safe flight out and hit no turbulence.